This message is coming in recognition of the beauty of your heart. And you are good at many things. And that is why it's important that you sculpt your desired work to suit the special being you are. Okay. So these are the first two messages that we have coming out of your future self. Okay. And the future self that you built because of who you are today. And so this this space of listening and gathering information is a space of being able to merge together with the future self, the future you. And that can be the next week version of you. That can be the 80-year-old version of you. It could be the 5 years from now version of you, the 6 months from now version of you. The future self, right? Like there's kind of infinite future selves that we can choose to tune into. And the version that's coming through today has a very specific desire to spend some time with you around what it is that you deeply desire. And the future self exists again because of the choices that today you makes, right? Like you unlock and unleash and essentially build from the ground up your future self through the choices that you do make and the choices you don't make and the ways that you show up in the world, right? And what what is clear in the future self energy that's coming through here is how specifically you have built your desired work to suit the special being that you are. You know that you're one of a kind. You know that there isn't someone in this world who can lead you into being yourself because no one else is you. No one else is the exact combination of the things that you are that make you who you are. And the the very clear desire of the future self energy that's coming in here is about tuning into what you desire most. And again, there's nothing outside of you in this world that can answer that question for you. And so I want to gather some messages and ask some questions and open up a space where we can commune with our future selves, myself included. I am very much in this message, first in line to receive what is it that my future self wants to tell me about what I desire most. And I pulled only a couple messages to get me started. And I am already blown away by like like how clearly this message shows me that I'm tapping into something other than just myself. Because when I initially look at the cards that are here, when I ask the question like what is it that I desire most? And I'm tuning into this energy that's here, this future self energy that's wanting to speak. And when I see the cards that fall out and I'm looking at them through like a Carly lens, Carly has thoughts about these cards, and there's a completely different lens that's also looking at these exact same cards and having a completely different story weave itself together. And so I am so excited to get to spend some time unpacking these messages and hanging out with you and getting to hang out together outside of time in this flow state place where our respective future selves have access to speak to us because we're ready to listen, because we're a captive audience and we're ready to listen, right? We're show me your ways, tell me your secrets. And I'll at least listen, right? Like we can't ever promise anything about what we're going to do with that information once we receive it, right? We have no idea what that information is. We haven't received it yet. We're about to, and this is fun. This is exciting. Like I love this feeling, and it's so fun. This question of what do you desire most? And kind of like almost generating a lifestyle out of living inside of that question, where what do I desire most drives every individual day. And this morning, for example, that question, it was so alive. What do I desire most? And like we're going to unpack as we go through this time, what do I desire most and why do I desire that? And the future self energy that's here is ready and able and willing to answer all of those questions and give you maybe not the entire full-blown picture, but for sure, the next stepping stone or two of like, how do you merge with your future self? And truly, it's not a matter of venturing towards the horizon of who we think our future self is. It is 100% about allowing those inner shifts to happen inside of who we are today, so that today we are a little bit more like our future self because we are tuning into that energy and we can see and hear and feel clearly who that future self is. Okay, so if you're still with me, if you're like, FNA Cotton, this is exactly what I've been looking for. This is exactly what I need to hear right now from my own future self. I want to like open up the space within myself to listen and hear from that future self that is ready and able to give me this message of what is it that I desire most and what is it, why do I desire that? Right? Like both of these pieces. So let us talk first about this initial message that came out as I was shuffling this deck and I was asking, what what do I desire most? And I'm asking that through the lens of this future self energy, right? Like I'm essentially interviewing that future self energy, not necessarily asking like what do I desire most, Carly, today in my now moment. Although I think as we look deeper into the desires, we find that a version of those desires already live in me, although they may be surfacing differently for my future self. So hopefully all of that is making sense. I think it will to those of you who are resonating with this message. And the very first card that came out, um, as far as what do I desire most? And then I have three cards for why do I desire that? The first card that came out, what do I desire most? Is Eight of Swords. She is bound, her hands are tied, she is blindfolded. The swords are all right in front of her, but she is not holding any of them. What do I desire most? And we get the Eight of Swords. And Carly, in her now moment, like right here today, Carly is like, Eight of Swords is a bad card. Okay. So, like, I judged it instantly that, like, what do I desire most? And then I get a negative card. Like, what the fuck does that mean about me? Like, what am I, some kind of masochist? Like, do I enjoy painful thoughts? Like, is that what this is? Like, I desire painful thoughts because that's kind of what the Eight of Swords is getting at. Like, the Eight of Swords, Nine of Swords, like, it's a waking nightmare that, like, your thoughts are the thing you can't escape from. And isn't that interesting? Okay, so, like, this is where the fact that a story came together about how the Eight of Swords is what I actually do desire most. And I had like this wave and like full body chills and tingles of like how perfect that is. Because one of the things that I thought about earlier this morning in my meditation as I was like sitting with this, what do I desire most question, was like, I really love being in conversation with another person. And I love when our conversation organically weaves itself together and they're inspired to say things and I'm inspired to say things. And the result is typically both of us having some kind of mental clarity that helps us feel more free than we did like 10 seconds ago, you know? And like Eight of Swords, swords are like mental and words and thoughts and ideas and, very, very much in the realm of conversation. And like basically what I love, and as I put these pieces all together in a way that I've never seen the picture before. Thank you, future self, for coming in and showing me the picture more clearly than I've ever seen it before, is like what a freaking delight it is to have a breakthrough like that. Like to have a moment where the illusion falls away and you can finally see it for like exactly what it really is. And you kind of have that moment of like realizing that I think it was like this the whole time. And that literally there's been something in front of my face that's been blocking my view. Like the blindfold that she is wearing, like it's not like the swords aren't there. And like, look at how many of them there are. And meanwhile, she's like the version I just heard in my head that's maybe closer to our now selves is like, I don't have this thing. I don't have a sword. I wish I had a sword, but I don't have a sword. I don't have a sword. Gosh dang it, I wish I had a sword. Why does everybody else have swords and I don't even have a sword? And it's like she has a bunch of swords and she could even maybe use one of those swords to like cut her hands free, which would let her get all of the rest of this nonsense off of her. And like basically she has everything that she needs. Like everything that she needs is already right there in front of her, except there is this blockade, there's this blockage on her eyes that is preventing her from seeing it. And in the course of a conversation, one of my all-time favorite moments in life, like one of my greatest delights in being human, is in being in conversation where one of those blindfolds can come off and like your energy just like skyrockets. Like if you've ever had an epiphany or an insight or like that breakthrough feeling, um, get out my breakthrough deck on that cue. Um, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so like I love breakthroughs. I love them. And what do I desire most? Earlier, when I'm thinking about this, is like, I was thinking like connection and that conversation, that like deep, effortless, flowing conversation that leads us both to like wiggle out of the ties that are binding us to where like truly we are so slippery in our flow state that like no illusion can contain us. And I was like getting like, I was turning myself on by like how good that energy was. And then I'm like, okay, what would be the most fun is to sit down and do a reading like this. I haven't done it in a minute. And the first card that comes out is the Eight of Swords. What I desire most is the Eight of Swords. And as I think about it, as I connect these dots, what my future self, I believe, is trying to tell me is that you can't have a breakthrough unless you're like first held back, is I think the tone of that message. And so I want to see like a breakthrough card. Your breakthrough is coming is the name of this deck. Unstoppable You, Oracle cards. Even if your breakthrough takes longer, it almost makes it even sweeter. Okay, this Eight of Swords, it's like when you are like basically the visual in the word that I'm getting is like mummified. When you are like totally mummified by your limiting beliefs, that is by far the most satisfying breakthrough that you will ever have. If you have like one tiny, oh, there we go. That's so interesting how that, okay, we'll keep that in mind. Um, when you have one tiny little string that like you're just going to be able to like get right out from under it. Like that's not a very satisfying breakthrough. Okay. Like it's not exactly even in the category of breakthrough. It doesn't quite have enough drama to it. You're not quite mummified enough to like really feel the confinement and the constraint. And again, this is so fucking fascinating because again, my future's like this future self energy that's coming in. I am literally getting turned on as I think about the ideas of confinement and constraint again from this lens of Eight of Swords. If you can feel a contraction, this is a future self message, piece of wisdom, little golden nugget for your pocket. If you can feel the contraction, that is the appetizer to the main course of expansion. So if you are having an Eight of Swords moment, the breakthrough is inevitable. You're the author. You're the author. You get to decide. You get to decide. It's up to you, you know? And maybe you know, maybe you don't know. Maybe this is the moment where that's really coming clear and where you're able to see your mental anguish in a new light. Okay. Like where maybe your mental anguish was never off course. Maybe what you desire most is a touch of mental anguish, like just a shot glass worth. Okay. 2 ounces goes a real long ways. Um, but basically, what you desire most, like without those 2 ounces, it's like life kind of loses its shine a little bit. Like you need a little bit of the contrast, you need a little bit of the illusion, you need a little bit of the confinement so that the freedom feels as delicious as it actually is. It is in the experience of confinement that we actually learn how to appreciate freedom, right? Like it's in the experience of hunger that we learn to appreciate the feeling of feeding ourselves and then being satiated, being full, right? Like when we feel full, like we have a reference point for being able to enjoy that feeling because of our memory of what it felt like to be hungry. And so, same, we can better enjoy our breakthrough because of the constraint that was previously upon us. And I'm also like, you're the author, and I'm thinking about like a three plot or like a three scene plot where like there's an antagonist and there's the protagonist and there's like maybe an underdog element and there's a comeback story and like it's all for the plot, right? Like it's not ever off track. The you being bound and blindfolded and under the clock and racing against time and like, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose everything. And like that kind of drama, like it's it's satisfying, okay, is like what I'm getting. Like, what do I desire most? I desire 2 ounces of drama along with my, 5 gallons of water. Like, I enjoy the breakthrough. I enjoy the moment of setting myself free. And how would you ever have a moment of setting yourself free if you were not previously unfree? Keep the promise you made to yourself with this candle image and this light, this inner candle makes me think of self-trust, like that inner flame and the ways that we show up in this world for ourselves. Um, the ways that we take care of ourselves, the ways that we listen to ourselves, the ways that we prioritize and make time for moments like this, where instead of searching in the world around us for what should I be doing, what's my true direction, instead, you are turning inward 100%, remembering you hold the pen, you are the author, and you get to decide like what is it that matters most to you. And truly, like that feeling of flight, that feeling, like the image I just got was like something being released out of a slingshot, and how like you have to have like the force of like pulling the bands back, and as much like the more force and pressure and stress and like stretch it out as far as it can, and then it just, and the flight, okay? The flight. And if you like to fly, if you want to take off and you want to fly, then like you need whatever it is that's going to launch you, right? And so, like the pressure, the feeling held back, the feeling confined, the feeling like I am stuck. I'm stuck. What do I desire most? Limitation. You guys, like already, this is just so good because, like I said, like this is not a story that today Carly would be able to tell, because today Carly is actually like feeling a little bit like this, feeling like I am in the middle of a chapter in my life right now where, I hate to use the word career because that makes it sound like a part of my life. Okay. The domain is my career, but truly, like everything that goes on in my career is fueled by like my inner journey of self-actualization and this process of becoming my future self. And I am in a season where I myself am up against some things that are feeling bigger than me. Like they feel like I'm outmatched. Like I don't have the weapon that I need. Or because this is a swords card, I don't have the weapon that I perceive that I need. Okay. Like we don't experience the world as it is. We experience the world through our brain. Right. So, like, we only experience our perception of the world. So, like, my limitation is not real. It is only my perception of what is real. So, my future self has a completely different vantage point. My future self has a completely different lens through which she is viewing reality. And when I like go back to this idea that like there are truly infinite future selves, it's like they all have a different lens through which to view your reality. Like a future self that I visit, I wouldn't say like every day, but once a week ish, probably about that often. I visit the future self, the version of me who has 20 seconds left to live. She knows it. She knows that she's in her last 20 seconds. And I get inside her experience and I look at the world through her eyes for even just 5 seconds. And at that point, typically what it is that I'm feeling or going through, like in my now reality, again, it's not that the external world changes at all, but my perception of the external world almost every single time shifts. And like, for example, I hadn't yet used that little trick on this thing that I'm doing right now, like feeling like this thing is bigger than me. These last like couple days, like I got really clear. Chiron just entered Taurus on June 19th, and we have a 3-month stint of Chiron in Taurus. We'll retrograde back into like another 5 or 6 months, I think, of Chiron in Aries to finish that nearly 8.5 year journey of Chiron in Aries. And then sometime next year, I think April 2027-ish, is when Chiron moves back into Taurus for 7 years. So I am very much getting like an early taste of like, what is this wound? Like, what is this perception of lack, perception of limitation? And for me personally, it came through the lens of money and income and how like our values and what we feel to be true and right on the inside is one thing, and our thought process and our predictions around like what other people are going to think about like our performance, quote unquote, like the external version of what people can see of our lives, Like, am I driven more by my internal values or am I driven more by my external need for that recognition and approval? And these last 5 years, like, I have been driven by my internal values. And because of that, because I have used those, like, what is most important to me to make those decisions, income has not been one of my top values for a very long time. And so over these last 5 years, my income has been very small by cultural standards. Um, I would say plenty for my needs and my purposes, and doesn't measure at all, like that income metric doesn't measure at all how I have successfully built value in my real values. Okay. So all of that to say, like 3 days ago, I was like totally cool with all of that. Okay. Like knowing in my bones that I had done the right thing. Like I don't even question it. Okay. Chiron enters Taurus. And once again, like I'm working towards like this thing, this goal that I have, like I'm going after this thing. And as I like sit down to work on it, like another time, like it's a big thing. So it's many, 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 many sittings of like working towards the thing. I sit down to work on it the first day that Taurus is or Chiron's in Taurus. And the first question that I work on the application is about like your financials, like your business performance, like to date, basically, and like including how much did you make specifically for 2025. And not only was I like allowing for my income to be as small as it needed to be, like whatever, like that's not what I'm trying to maximize. I'm maximizing my actual values, and they were maximized. In the process, though, income was sometimes small, and in 2025, it was the least it had been in the last 5 years. So, like, when I have to pull 2025 out, it's like the teeniest little one. And so, as I'm sitting there looking at this picture, thinking about like having to write all of this into this application and like tell this selection committee this story of my very small income history over these last few years. Um, I had very different feelings about it than I had had the day before, where I know I did the right thing. Like, I know that this is the path that I was supposed to walk, and I know that I spent this time exactly how I was supposed to spend it, and I have harvested things that are actually valuable, right? Like I didn't stockpile cash. I had done that in my whole 20s, and turns out like it doesn't really give you that much fulfillment. And so in my 30s, I have been way more focused on stockpiling the things that give you actual fulfillment, like actual life satisfaction. When you lay your head on the pillow at night, you are just delighted and overwhelmed by the gratitude for how you got to spend the day. That's the kind of currency that I want to be paid in, that kind of like really truly overflowing full feeling. That's what I want. That's what I desire most. Eight of Swords. And okay, so why do I desire that? Okay. And this is the second part of like the initial message that I drew here is like, what do I desire most? Eight of Swords, restriction, limitation. And what, why do I desire that? Why is that the most important thing to my future self? Is that sense of limitation? And this next part requires me to share the word scrying, Scrying, scrying. It's like the form of divination when you look at things and allow for basically clairvoyancy to merge with the actual like physical sight. Like it's like using your clairvoyance with your eyes open. And you let the images like just reveal themselves to you. And so I learned this word recently. I'm already quite clairvoyant in my imagination. And sometimes I really do actually see like physical things that are there as much as I can perceive. Okay. Everyone's perceiving something completely different. So, how do we know if it's there or not? We don't. I went down this whole rabbit hole about how color is an illusion, right? Like the whole, our we experience the world through our brain. We do not experience the world as it actually is. And so everything in the 3D, everything about what we perceive through this brain is a reflection of us. Okay, so like scrying, how I'm applying it to tarot is like as I was shuffling, these cards just like fell out on the table and I let them be how they are. Okay. Like I left them exactly in the position. I didn't force them to upright. I didn't force them into reverse. Like, for example, the first card that came out, like right underneath this. So, like, this one actually came out like right side up, and this one came out right underneath it, like landed just like this and exactly sideways. Okay. And so I want to just pause there for a moment. And I know you don't know, like, or maybe you do know what the Knight of Wands represents. Wands being a fire card, like you can kind of see him. He's a knight on a horse. That horse is very capable of running. He's got his torch. He's got his armor on. He's ready. And it came out right underneath this Eight of Swords that was fully upright. So, what I desire most, Eight of Swords, this sense of limitation. And why do I desire it? Our first card is this sideways Knight of Wands. And instantly, this future self energy tells me, and I'm really slowing down the story because what my future self energy tells me is not nearly as important as what your future self energy is telling you. So, again, I want to just like really allow space for your own scrying, your own like look at it, and what do you think it means? Because the words that came to my mind are the only way that you get here to this perception of lack and limitation is when you are sideways in your power. Sideways in your power is what came to mind. Sideways in your power. Sideways in your power. That's what makes a perception of lack or limitation. Like I was listening to a podcast this morning called M on the Brain, and great podcast. Highly recommend you check it out by a chick called Emily McDonald. And she was talking about how you are much more easily triggered when you are tired, stressed, or underfed. When you're tired, stressed, or hungry, then it's a lot easier for you to be in this state of perceiving lack and limitation and scarcity and threat and opposition where maybe there is none, right? Like maybe you have all the swords you could ever need. And there's a blindfold. There's a blindfold on your eyes where you're just not seeing it because you're sideways in your power. And let's just say, like, as we're asking these questions or interviewing our future self, it's like, you know, what do I desire most? Breakthrough. Why do I desire it? Because in the earth realm, sometimes you get sideways of your power. Sometimes the illusion is so convincing and so compelling, and it has you thinking that it's real, right? Like you think that the darkness behind the blindfold is the world. And it's just not, because if you took the blindfold off, the light of the world most likely first is going to hurt your eyes. And when your eyes adjust to the light of the world that is already there, you will see that you have all the swords you need. And once again, you're right side up in your power. So check this out though, because that's only the first card of why do you really want it? And so this next one, and I'm going to try to like again show you the positioning because I'm taking something from not only how these cards, like which cards are they, but how they landed, kind of like reading tea leaves basically. So like this came out, and then this was like this right here. So very much like this is at the top, and the third card is even below this. So like this is at the top, and then it's almost like falling. Okay, so like the card is here. And look, it's also more right side up than it is upside down. It landed like this. Okay, but it's not perfectly right side up. Okay. And so again, I'm going to read into the positioning, like the reference between this chunk of energy here and this one, to me is about like when we perceive limitation, it is because we are sideways in our power, and the hanged man, right? Like kind of sideways, hanging by his foot, upside down. It's about getting a new vantage point. Okay. And the fact that it's like not fully right side up, but it's a little bit tilted, what I took from that is like doing it, but with a beginner's mindset. Okay, getting a new perspective, but not like an expert who knows how to get a new perspective. Like you're getting a new perspective, like you're bumbling your way there by accident, and that's the right way to do it. Okay, why do you want this limitation? Why do you want 2 ounces of drama? Because because you have such good reasons. Okay, your future self has such good reasons for this. Because when you are sideways in your power, when you will get a new perspective on that and find find your way from this to this, where like you're sideways in your power versus you're like locked in, right side up, ready to roll, like ready to wield your magic wand as the creator of your friggin' reality, like your God in human form, your divine life force energy in a human body, experiencing this world through your brain. Okay. So when you are locked into your power, you can make whatever you want. You can create whatever you want. So, like, anytime you're perceiving that you're limited or stuck or restricted or confined or smaller than the thing you perceive. I rewatched the Matrix movie on Friday. For like the trillionth time. And every single time the scene gets me where he's taken to the Oracle and the other potentials are out in the waiting room and the kid is bending the spoon and he hands him a spoon and the kid is explaining like the trick is not to bend the spoon. That's impossible. The trick is to remember that there is no spoon and that it is actually your mind that bends. Okay, so like 8 of Swords, right? Like when we perceive a limitation, the trick is not to like cut through the limitation. That's impossible. The trick is to remember there is no limitation. And actually, you are God in human form when you get a new perspective on it. And at that point, you open yourself up to this last little bit. And again, let me get you the visual, the full effect, because again, I want to hear in the comments, hopefully, like, what does your future self make all of this mean? So, like, we had this, right? So this is below these pieces of energy, and then this one landed like this. Okay. And I want to note that, like, look at this one is a lot closer to the sideways like what the Knight of Wands was, like where the Hanged Man is like nearly right side up. It's just a little bit off to the side, a little bit tilted. This one is nearly sideways, but a little bit towards upright. Okay. And again, I go into this because I took a message from that as far as like it like gives me the image of the dahlia where like the dahlia bud, when it's ready to bloom, it opens just a little bit and then it closes a little bit. And then it opens a little bit more and then it closes a little bit. And then it opens a little bit more and then it closes a little bit. And then it opens a little bit more and then it closes a little bit. And then it opens a little bit more and then it closes a little bit. And so, like that, like every single time we will perceive this limitation, it's like we're contracting a little bit. And what does that mean? That's the appetizer, my friends, to the main course of the wider expansion that is happening where? In your heart. Okay, so the amount of divine life force energy, which is to say, the amount of divine universal love that can flow out of the ethers of the non-physical, the interconnectedness, infinite all. Okay, how much of that unconditional universal love can flow out of the ethers and through the human being that is you. Okay. And this like nearly sideways, but towards the upright Knight of Cups, it's like every single time one of these perceptions of limitation and lack and scarcity, every single time you get your 2 ounces of mental anguish, again, there's like a cascade. It starts with that perception of lack because you're sideways in your power, because you need to get a new perspective, because your heart is ready to open some more. That is so freaking cool. That is so freaking cool. And actually, these cards also fell out with this message as like, why do you really want it? Okay. And there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. There's 7 cards here. So the number 7 might be meaningful or synchronicity about this message. Um, and yeah, wow. Wow. Okay. So I actually want to reset. I want to reset for just a moment because you are the author. Keep the promises you made to yourself. And the promise that I made to myself about this reading was that this is a place for our future selves to get to speak to us, right? That we are a captive audience for our future self. And so before I move on to the additional messages that came with this initial, what do I desire most and why do I want it? Um, and again, I'm going to let that lay how it laid, and we got the 6 of Wands. Okay, so it came out about like that. So again, closer to sideways, but more towards upright. And the 6 of Wands is a card of success. It's a card of being recognized. It's a card of you mixed it up with other people and you came out on top. Okay. And this is really interesting. Again, as far as like, what do I desire most? And so now we have this 8 of Swords completely upright, and we have this 6 of Wands completely, or sorry, not completely, but like somewhat sideways. And we want the perception of limitation. We want the experience of success. And again, like there is something that right now Carly is really blocking in her own success, where she is telling a story about how like her desires have to benefit everyone. That like it's selfish if she desires things that are only for her. And like to me, 6 of Wands, like to me, Carly today, like now moment Carly, 6 of Wands is almost like a selfish energy of like wanting to shine, like wanting to be in the spotlight, holding the microphone, having people clap for you. And there is something that now Carly is like kind of tied up in a little bit as far as like pushing that away, feeling like that is an inferior desire and that that's not like a worthy desire. And I would like to invite future self before, like right now, Carly gets too deep down the rabbit hole of what's wrong with success. Let's ask future self to clarify, like, why the 6 of Wands? Like, so that's what I desire most. Why do I desire that? Why? Oh, that was instant. Okay, great. And these came out all together and they're in a sideways chunk, just like this. Okay. So the first one is the World, and the second is the 7 of Swords. And like again, I when I'm in my scrying mode, when I'm like, which in my mind is the deepest form of listening I have, because I am doing everything possible within my brain consciously to not wallpaper over my reality with my own personal meanings. I'm trying to receive and listen for the meanings that are wanting to present themselves new in this moment. like I have no idea what my future self wants to say. I'm not my future self. I'm my right now self. So like if I'm putting my own right now meanings on these cards, then I'm not listening to what my future self has to say about them. So when I scry, when I like leave them like they are, and this is how they came out, and check it, like there are two cards here, but how many do you see? I only see one. And I have to like get this one out from under this other one. And so like I take a meaning in that, right? Like this Seven of Swords, they came out exactly aligned, one right under the other. And the Seven of Swords is like backing it up. It's like not needing to be visible for its own sake, it's for something. That's really interesting considering that the message we're trying to interpret is like, why is success and recognition one of the things that I desire most? Because my conscious right now brain is pushing those things away. It's like making me wrong or bad for wanting those things and encouraging me to think bigger. Like don't get caught up in like what it is that you want. Like think about like what it is that everyone wants and like what would be best for the highest good of the all, not just the highest good of Carly. And like this is my right now way of thinking. And so then we get this sideways world backed up by the sideways Seven of Swords. And the messages that I'm getting here, right, that it's not about being visible for its own sake. The Seven of Swords doesn't need to be visible. It was perfectly happy to be completely obscured behind the World card. They're both sideways, but they are both in alignment, which also meant, in my mind, from my future self, that they get turned together. Okay. So like they're locked together. So like if they're both sideways, they're both sideways. If they're both right side up, they're both right side up. And what I get is like the world in tarot is the 21st major arcana. So it's a lot about completion and endings and um like kind of getting to the end of the journey that you started. And but in this what I'm trying to work out between my now self and my future self is my future self is telling me what I want most is this moment of success and recognition. And why do I want it? Because of the sideways world and the hidden, possibly benevolent deception that goes on, the possibly benevolent stealing and interference. And it's obscured and you don't get to see it. And but it's not the point to see it. The point is the sideways world. And so why do you want success and recognition, this sideways world? And when I say sideways world, like, I mean, the image that I get is human suffering and hardship that does not need to be, right? Like this, like, right, the perception of lack and scarcity and limitation that is not there. The thoughts of I don't have any swords. And in truth, you have many swords and you're wearing a blindfold that lets you not be able to see them. So, as I listen, what I'm hearing is that what I want is to ride my horse into battle. Six of Wands. Like Six of Wands comes after Five of Wands. I like to think about like where was it coming from and where's it going to? Because no card in the deck is like happening in isolation. It's always because you came out of an energy and it's preparing you to go into the next energy. And so Six of Wands is coming after Five of Wands, which is about competition. And that's why I say like you mixed it up. with other people. You put yourself out there and you let yourself be seen. You let yourself enter the competition. You shot your shot and you came out on top. And what happens then when you're on your way to the Seven of Wands? It's like basically, I think the competition gets harder, like the level of competitor that you're up against is greater, but also your understanding of where your true strength comes from is evolving as you go. And you know that it has nothing to do with your spear. It has everything to do with your spirit. I feel like I need to write that down. Has nothing to do with your spear. It has everything to do with your spirit. And that's the Seven of Wands is like there's often like a bubble of protection around the person in the Seven of Wands. That's like you're taking on all of these opponents, but like it doesn't even matter because you know you're protected because it's not about your spirit, it's about your spirit. It's about your greater sense of power and where does that really come from? And so this moment, this Six of Wands moment, it's deepening as I go through all of this, as far as like, in order to get there, it's not, it's truly not about the vanity of being on stage and being seen. It is about what did it take to get there? And what did you overcome in order to get there? And I'm also hearing like personalizing your definition of success because standing on stage and being clapped for, like it could literally be for anything. And I'm drawn back to that very first message of you're good at many things. Sculpt your desired work to suit the special being that you are. And I want to get out one of these cards. And before I do that, I actually want to flip this. Okay. So Five of Cups, and it landed right on top of success, right on top of that Six of Wands, and it's reversed. It's basically exactly reversed. Okay. And when I threw it onto the spread, it landed like this. And this one is the Six of Wands, which was like this. Okay. So the Five of Cups upside down, covering the Six of Wands. Okay. What I get from that, thank you, that's clarifying. What I get, oh, and this one. What I get from that is that there are many different ways to feel success, and that your future self is experiencing success in a new way that is not how it's felt in the past. In the past, success has felt hollow and like a disappointment. And like when I get the thing that I've been trying to get, often I feel like this isn't even that exciting. And now I don't even care about it anymore. And I just want something else. And like there's always something else to want. And your future self is explaining that it's not like that where they are because the things that they're being clapped for, they've sculpted their desired work to suit the special being that they are. And so the things like the Five of Wands moments that they're standing in, the competition that they've taken on, the ways that they're showing up in the world is so aligned with the true fire and passion that animated them onto the physical plane in the first place, that being clapped for, it feels like a heart overflowing moment. Like Five of Cups is like when it's right side up, it's like spilled. There's a lot of spilled things. There's empty cups. There's spilled cups. There's darkness and shadow and disappointment and letdown and disillusionment. And it's hard. It's a hard feeling. But we didn't get it right side up. We got it upside down. And there's a lot of different ways that we can interpret upside down cards. But in this case, I'm getting like kind of that opposite feeling of like your cup is overflowing. Like, and it's a cup, like it's your emotions, it's your heart space. So, like, your heart is overflowing at this success, at this recognition that's coming to you because of what it means, right? Like it's not about the vanity of receiving applause for the sake of getting applause. It's not about that. It's deeper than that. And so when we push away success, we push away everything that success can be. And we push away the very thing that we desire most, being like that sense of true fulfillment, like true overflowing, feeling full and satiated and satisfied when we lay our head on the pillow at night, right? Like true success. So, two of these came out. The first one is New Moon in Cancer. You and your loved ones are safe. And the other one is Full Moon in Leo. And it says, Don't let pride get in your way. And I do believe this one was first and the Leo card was second, which is interesting because Cancer and Leo are both the current zodiac sign that the sun is now in. It's in Cancer right now, and Leo will be next. Bub Kitty, come, Mr. Boy. That's a really pretty lion. You see her? She got a mane, but I still a her, I think, because can and because want to, because fun. Yeah. You and your loved ones are safe. That reminds me of There Is No Spoon. Okay. Like, there is no darkness. The darkness behind the blindfold is not the world. That message is very clear. Um, you and your loved ones are safe. There is no spoon. There is no threat. Like, you are truly the creator of your reality. Like, you're the author. Okay. You and your loved ones are safe, and you can write the story that way. You can author the story that way. That's possible. That's what happens when you're willing and able and commanding your own magic wand, like wielding your own power. And this is really interesting, full moon in Leo, because Leo is very much about our power. Leo is ruled by the sun, and full moon in Leo happens during Aquarius season. And so I'm getting some messages off of that. Like at the time of the new moon in Cancer, we're actually about to have the next new moon will be the new moon in Cancer. So that might be a timing synchronicity. Um, Not sure exactly when that'll be happening, but I would say around the middle of July, um, 2026 at the time I'm recording this. Uh, Next new moon in Cancer might be significant. And then the full moon in Leo won't actually happen until like 2027 will be our next full moon in Leo because that happens during Aquarius season. And for 2026, we already had Aquarius season. It's early on in the year. And when the sun is in Aquarius and we have the full moon in Leo, that illumination of our fullest power, again, it takes me back to the sideways world and the hidden deception and interference that goes on behind the sideways world, possibly to make it be sideways. The things that we can't see that we know are there that are causing the world to be sideways. Um, when our full power gets illuminated during the full moon in Leo, and it says, don't let pride get in your way. The reason pride becomes an issue is because when you are so powerful and you can create whatever you want, you're so magnetic, you can draw whatever you want to you. I mean, there gets to be almost like an arrogance or a pride that becomes the shadow of that, of like an overconfidence. And first of all, I would like to say, like, what a cool problem to have. As far as like as opposed to like the underdog side of it, where like you are not sure if you have any power. And this is like you've got so much power, try to not let it burn you up, kind of thing. Like, don't let your pride get in the way. And that is actually also really interesting. It's making me think back to a moment that I had with someone, a conversation where they were asking me a very similar moment to right now, actually, as far as like, what is it that you desire most? Like, what is it that you're trying to create? And why do you want that? And how will you sabotage it? And that how will you sabotage it question I was not prepared for. And so I rambled a bunch of crap out into the air between me and this other person. And they said to me, "Oh, so you'll sabotage it by making it about you." Oh, okay. Okay. And I had not said that. I mean, that was not at all what I said. I rambled for several minutes about all kinds of things. Who the fuck even knows what I said? I don't remember what I said. But their reflection was, oh, you'll make it about you. And that is such a Aquarius sun, Leo moon, like that full moon illumination of your true power. And is it for you or is it for the sideways world that really wants to be right side up? I mean, heaven on earth is totally possible. And one by one, individual by individual, we can energetically relocate ourselves there, doing that work inside of ourselves to shift our frequency into that place and be a magnet for that experience. It's already happening all around us. A lot of the world is sideways though. And they are in the Eight of Swords reality of the darkness of wearing their blindfold, right? They're sideways in their power. They need to catch a new perspective. And how might they catch a new perspective? Well, possibly by seeing someone illuminated who is showing them something different than anything they had thought before. Just like that person took everything that I had said and reflected it back to me in their own words and really planted a seed that is still with me here 3 years later. That conversation, I remember the month and year that it happened because it was that potent that, like, it really set me free from, you know, pride doesn't get in our way when we think we're unstoppable. Pride gets in our way. And again, this feels like the future self message, like wisdom coming through, because Carly is still very much like right now, Carly is still very much a student of all of this. But pride gets in our way when we think we're not good enough. Pride gets in our way when we actually perceive that we'll probably lose the fight. And so then we skip it. And that's how pride holds us back, right? Like when you're willing to get in the ring with an opponent who is like a whole weight class above you, and you're probably going to lose, but you're going to have like one of the best sparring matches of your whole life, like fighting an opponent that is able to push you to your absolute limit and find really truly what are you capable of, right? Like this opponent who is better than you is going to be able to push you outside your comfort zone and you'll have to draw even deeper on your instincts, right? But like if we have so much pride that says like we only fight the fights that we know we can win, that's what leads to hollow success, my friends. That's what leads to like that moment of like standing there on stage getting clapped for and being like, but I basically didn't even win anything because my opponent fell down back at the starting line and I ran the race by myself. So yeah, I technically crossed the finish line first, but like it wasn't like I actually had to like run as fast as I could. I just had to finish the deal and I won by default. Okay. So like that's not nearly as satisfying as like, no, I actually like not only did I win, but I ran it faster than I've ever run it in my entire life because this person was like right behind me the whole entire time. Okay. So like this being pushed outside of our comfort zone by someone who is better than us, um, is an actual gift that, again, I think has to do with putting us in moments where standing on the stage, being clapped for, it feels different. And it feels different because it's overflowing our heart, because we know that nobody fell down at the finish line, right? It was a photo finish, and we're all in the photo. Okay. And you're at the front. Okay. We're all in the photo finish at the finish line. Like we all finished within a second of each other, and you're at the front. Okay, that to me is this like five of cups in reverse, like covering up success. Like it's not about the applause, it's about the overflowing moment in your heart of like you freaking worked your ass off and you got the thing. You got to stand there because of what you were willing to do, what you put in. Like we get out what we put into things like every single time. That's the whole point of Saturn and karma and this 3D reality, is that our reality is a reflection of our choices, right? Like every single choice that we make is a boomerang that we throw out into the 3D world, and the 3D world creates a reflection of that boomerang and gives it back to us. And so, a moment of standing on stage, of that photo finish, of we're all in the picture, we all finished like right there together. The field of competitors has never been more talented, and you're at the front. Like that is such a different feeling than you're in the photo finish all by yourself because you were a whole lap ahead of everyone. Like, I don't know, collecting medals like that, I just feel bored. And I feel like quite possibly my now version of like my now relationship to success has something to do with that, has something to do with I'm hearing like big fish, small pond, like success isn't even meaningful, and is it because you're a big fish in a small pond? Like, would success be more meaningful if you were in a bigger pond, right? Like, if you were actually up against people who push you to have to do your best, if you're actually like going up against someone where your typical way of winning, like your typical planned approach, like it instantly gets blown out of the water, and instead you have to do the entire thing by instinct, and it's the best one you've ever done, right? And like how did you create that? Well, pure instinct. And why were you in pure instinct and not in your planned approach? Because there was someone who was applying enough pressure that my planned approach, like it didn't even get off the ground. I had to completely go a different way. And it was because of the opponent. It was because of the resistance that this person was able to put on my trail. Oh my God. Thank you for this. Okay. So at this point, this is so great. At this point, these two cards that we've already worked with, we're laying here like this, okay? And we've got the world that was previously sideways. Now they're both pretty much right side up laying here, just as I've moved them without thinking about it. And this Seven of Swords is really out and visible now, okay? And this landed like this. Can you see the Seven of Swords? Neither can I, okay? So it's completely covered by the Saboteur. The Saboteur and the Seven of Swords. I was actually going to tell this story and then I didn't, but I'm going to go back and tell it now because the Seven of Swords is typically about like deception, betrayal, lying, two-facedness, like behind your back, in the dark of the night, sneaking around, like something is being obscured and like you don't have the full truth. And like another version of that is like this shadow that like you don't even really know like what is that shadow, right? Like we only see this character. And one of the interpretations, like one of the mythologies that I've heard for Seven of Swords is like that basically it represents someone who, okay, so like there's a conflict going on, and there's like a planned battle for the next day where like the two sides of the conflict are like gonna go to war the next day. And someone from Camp B like sneaks into like the weapons area and steals all the swords so that like there's no weapons. So like basically neutering the conflict, like stealing the ammo so that like you sure you could still go to war, but like your weapon is not there. And so your likelihood, like your firepower, like you don't have it anymore. And so the conflict has changed. And again, when we think about like each of the cards in the tarot, it's like it's a journey. And so we have the Seven of Swords, and next is the Eight of Swords. So like when somebody steals all the swords, like it makes sense that you would think, I have no swords. But truly, and this is getting so deep and rich. Thank you so much, future self. Um, truly, that moment when the swords get stolen, okay, like your weapons are stolen. And I just want you to feel that because the Seven of Swords, like it's a painful card. It's a betrayal card. And feeling like something that was valuable to you has been stolen. And what do we desire most? Eight of Swords. So, how do we get there? How do we get to feeling like we have no swords? Somebody took our swords, right? Like somebody stole them. Okay. Stole them right out from under us. We didn't even see it coming. We didn't find out till they were already gone. Like we just have no swords. Except I don't have any swords. That's a myth. It's an illusion, right? Like there are no swords. That's not real. And what I'm feeling is that when someone takes away something like in the physical, like something that can truly be stolen, like a sword, like a physical, tangible sword, um, when you lose the tangible weapon, you find your real weapon, right? Like it goes back to what we were talking about with like, it's not about the spear, it's about your spirit. Okay, so it's not about like the sword in your hand, it's about the sword in your heart. That's so cool. Okay, and then we've got the King of Cups in reverse. The sword in your heart and the King of Cups in reverse. Mm. And as I threw it, it lands like this. So, what I desire most is this sense of limitation, this perception of scarcity, and I have no swords. And this King of Cups in reverse, slightly covering that, reminds me back to this Knight of Cups of like, the contraction is just the appetizer to the main course of expansion. And when we are in this moment of I have no swords, truly we are under the illusion of the Maya. We're caught in the illusion of the Maya, the earth realm, the 3D, where we are believing more in the 3D physical, tangible sword made of metal than we are believing in the power of our heart, right? Like King of Cups in reverse. Like we're somewhat detached from the power of our heart and the power of being connected with our heart. Next, I got the Tower in reverse. That's really interesting. And I'm going to need a clarifier for that wants to come out of here. What is the Tower in reverse meant to add to this message? How does this connect? Future self, please illuminate. How does the Tower in reverse? Hello, thank you. Okay. Okay. So the Tower in reverse, and then the two cards that we got are the Knight of Coins was first, and the Wheel of Fortune. Ooh. You think it's going to hurt to open your heart. You think it's going to hurt, but it's not. You think it's going to light you on fire and burn your shit down, but it's not. It's not. And I'm also kind of struck by how similar these cards are. They're almost like mirror images of each other. Obviously, like they're riding different animals. One's a man, one's a woman, but they feel very balanced to me. Take that for what you will. Um, but as we think about this, there's like, okay, so this Knight of Pentacles and reverse Wheel of Fortune. Um, the Knight of Pentacles, I'm getting the sense of like basically you think you already know how it's going to go. Like you've got a plan. You think you understand the physical tangible process of like what you need to do to secure a harvest. Like we got this card in the upright, so like I'm getting like there's a lot of confidence that you have about how to do things in the physical world. You have experience, you have track record, and quite possibly it's that experience and track record that's actually blocking the change in fortune that is not going to, that's really interesting. Like I don't even know these words. It's not going to upheaval your life, like right side up tower, right? Like it's not going to upheaval your life. It's going to downheaval your life, okay? And whatever that means, but that's what I heard. Basically, it's going to like cause things to fall together. It's going to be like, what was that the other day? Oh, my cherries. When I poured my cherries into, like, I washed them and then I poured them into the bowl to, like, put them in the fridge. And I, like, shook the bowl and, like, the cherries, like, settled down in so that they were, like, more compact and more tight. And, like, there was more room in the container that, like, you could have fit more cherries in instead of, like, initially it's, like, overflowing when they're not fitting together as well. And so, like, that's the image that I got with this reverse tower. It's like, it's not going to feel like lightning striking and like like everything is burning down. It's going to feel like everything is finally clicking together in the way that it should. And that like the wheel of fortune like turning upright would move you towards like what is it that you're writing in your story? Like what is it that you desire most? And why do you desire that? And is it possible that you have preconceived notions about how things are supposed to happen, how the timing is supposed to go, how the order of events is supposed to happen? Like, is it possible that you're projecting what you think is supposed to be, like you're covering your eyes with remembering your past and trying to predict the future out of your past instead of letting your future self lead you forward. And I am drawn back to this saboteur card that we never really unpacked, and I'm drawn back to it because there's a hot air balloon on it, which I definitely did not notice at first. And I was having, in the last month, I've had like multiple moments where I felt like I was under a limitation like this. And that because like there were boulders like tied and hanging off of my basket of my hot air balloon that I couldn't go anywhere. Like I was being trapped on the ground because of these heavy boulders that were connected to me. And I can't fly because of the heavy boulders. And I was all like in my tied up, bound up, frustrated. I don't have any swords. I'm not flying and I want to be flying. And in that instance, it was so true of like I had been sideways in my power. You get a new perspective on it. You open your heart some more. You let even more of your God self come through. You let even more of your future self come through. And truly, the size of your hot air balloon, like this part up here, gets 10 times bigger. And all of a sudden, this thing that used to be called a boulder is now just a little rock that happens to be hanging off your basket like it's decoration. Okay, it's not slowing you down because your balloon, the force pulling you upward is so big that there's no way a couple little rocks are gonna like hold it on the ground. So it is once again like that inner transformation that is possible that lets you take flight whenever you are ready. You are the author. You get Mr. Boy. See, Mr. Boy, he is the author of his life, and that means he want to go outside and then inside, and then outside and then inside. Who am I to argue? Exactly. So these are the Carolyn Meese archetype cards, this saboteur card. And like her whole point, I mean, is that number one, these are by no means all the archetypes. Okay, there's tons of archetypes. Everything in the 3D world is an archetype, and the saboteur is one of them. And every single archetype has a light side and a shadow side, something about that archetype that helps us, and something about that archetype that binds us, right? That makes us feel like we are lacking in some kind of way. There is no such archetype in the 3D that does not have a shadow. There is no such archetype in the 3D that does not have a light side, which is why I think it's really interesting that we would get the saboteur card when we're doing this reading of like, what do I desire most and why do I desire it? What the hell is a saboteur card doing out here? Except for what I desire most is this feeling of stuckness. What I desire most is the illusion of limitation. I wish for someone to arrive to pull this wool over my eyes such that I can be temporarily in that darkness, such that my hot air balloon grows 10 times the size, and all of a sudden I'm a more powerful version of myself with an even more open heart. Okay, because of my even more open heart. So the light attribute of the saboteur, how it helps us, is that it highlights your fear of self-empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life. And the shadow attribute is that it induces self-destructive behavior or the desire to undermine others. So, as I read both of those, my future self reminded me of different things. As I read the light attribute that highlights your fear of self empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life, I was listening to a podcast the other day and the person was referencing the Bible. I didn't read this story in the Bible myself. I was just listening to them tell it. But the story from the Bible where Jesus is asking the sick person that, wants the healing theoretically, and Jesus can heal and like is there to heal. And Jesus asks this person, "Do you want to be healed?" And on the surface, it may sound like a stupid question. Like, I'm sick. Of course, I want to be healed. And this energy right here is why that question is necessary, because the light attribute, it highlights your fear of self-empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life. Okay. Like, if you were healed, like, let's say in that instance of like, you're sick and you want to be well, if you become well, then you're no longer sick. So that means like if your sickness is getting you something, if you're using your sickness as a strategy to get something that you need, to fulfill something that you need, that's like a valid and a need that you have, and being sick gets you that, then in order to truly want to be healed, you would have needed to contemplate what is going to be your new method for getting that need met. So, for example, I think about like, I've watched many things on chronic illness and what that kind of manifestation is pointing towards. I personally believe, based on my own lived experience and very little else, that like our intuition whispers to us, and when we don't listen, eventually our body will scream. And our body doesn't have to scream if we are listening to our intuition. And that's not to shame anybody or make anybody feel bad. Like if your body is screaming at you, like, oh, you're a bad listener or whatever. But like it is about recognizing that, you know, you can be like, damn, this is one bumpy ditch. Like I'd really like, wow, like this ditch, it's so bumpy. And it's like, yeah, but like there were rumble strips up at the side of the road that like told you you were veering off the road and like you were headed somewhere way bumpier than just some rumble strips. And now like yeah, the it's a really bumpy ride because you're off road. And like I get it, that's totally valid that it's bumpy. That's why we have a road that's smooth and flat and can make our transportation more gentle. And that's why we put the rumble strips there so that you can stay on that road so that if you start to veer off, you know it. There's something subtle that can tell you that you're veering off of the smooth path and you can hopefully like put yourself back on the smooth path. But like let's say you're somebody who is like a people pleaser, like this often comes up in uh discussions around chronic illness, is like this inability to advocate on behalf of oneself. Okay, like you don't have access to your authentic yes and no. Your yes, or really your no, it's like stuck into a position of like, what does the person across from me want from me? And whatever it is that they want from me, that's my answer. You want me to say yes? I'll say yes. You want me to say no? I'll say no. And so, like, you're stuck in this mode of like out of control. And typically, like, the end of that is manifesting some type of chronic illness that you can't go because you have a migraine, right? I didn't say no. I didn't decline your invitation. I didn't not do what you wanted me to do. I can't. I can't physically go because I am debilitated and in my bed. And it's interesting because I manifested recently a day where I had a couple things going on that day and I ended up feeling really, really bad physically. And I ended up canceling all my plans. And as I thought about it, I was like, I could have probably canceled those plans and skipped the illness. But we live and we learn. And so, yeah, like my future self is definitely reminding me of that question of like, do you want to be healed? Do you want your heart to overflow? Do you want to feel full? Like, do you really want that? Because if you had it, you would no longer get to be the version of you that doesn't have it. And chances are, we are the version of ourselves that we are right now because we're getting something out of it. That's where my background in behavioral economics comes in so handy because like the foundational principle of behavioral economics is that no person spends money on something that does not give them utility. So, like, you can understand people a lot better than even talking to them by looking at what they spend their time and their money on. Like, what they spend their resources on, it shows you what's most important to them, not what they say is most important to them because that's their aspirational self-talking. What they spend their resources on, their time and their money, that's what's actually most important to them, who they are right now today. And so behavioral economics, it's based around this idea of utility, right? And so like when we are someone who is chronically ill, or even like in this case where it's talking about the fear of self-empowerment, when you're chronically disempowered, it's getting you something. There's something in it that you want, that is working, that is the reason this strategy is effective and why you came up with the strategy in the first place. So that's why when it comes to behavioral change, I don't tend to look at like the symptoms and we need to change the symptoms. I come to it more from like that identity level of like, who do you know yourself to be? What is truly most important to you? What do you desire most? Why do you want that thing? Who is that guiding you to become? And like, what is this deeper underlying journey that your soul is trying to get you to take? And so when we look at the shadow attribute of this card, of the saboteur, it induces self-destructive behavior or the desire to undermine others. And the two pieces of that, when we're doing it to ourselves, it's called an upper limit problem. And there's a dude by the name of Gay Hendricks who is friggin' awesome. He talks about the zone of genius and the upper limit problem, where like truly our nervous system has like a thermostat set point. And like I heard somebody describe it the other day, like if your thermostat is set to 72 and like the heat is going to kick on at 68 and the air is going to kick on at 76 and like the only reality you ever experience is 68 degrees to 76 degrees and that's what you think the world is, right? Like you think the world is the darkness inside your blindfold. You think the world is 68 degrees to 76 degrees when in fact that's just the parameters of your nervous system. Okay, so this inducing self-destructive behavior, it's the heater kicking on, it's the air conditioner kicking on, it's getting you back into your mode of comfort, into your comfort zone where your nervous system can predict what comes next because how you feel is familiar. That's what your brain is angling towards all the time. It's wanting you to survive. It's wanting to keep you safe. It's scanning for threats. It's scanning for danger. It's keeping you inside your comfort zone. That's why moments like this one, where we can settle down into some time and space where we have time to listen to our future self talk to us about what is real, about like, not just the thermostat set point and the blinders that we have on as our now selves, but the thermostat set point and the blinders that our future self has on, right? Not that they don't have a thermostat set point, not that they don't have on blinders, they do. They're just wider, they're hotter, colder, they're in a different place. And so they experience that the world is not only what you think it is right now. They know that there's more to it than that. And so the future self version of you has taken that journey between where we are right now today and how they became who they are. And the other element of this shadow attribute that may be relevant in this progress or this process of going from who you are today to who you know you are in the future. Um, Another shadow attribute, it's the desire to undermine others. And that's something to really sit with because as far as an Eight of Swords moment and a feeling stuck moment and like a there's boulders hanging off of the basket of my hot air balloon that are the reason that I am on the ground, right? Like there's a lot of blame. There's a lot of like I'm stuck and it's their fault, right? Like I would be way further along if it wasn't for this person. I would have what I want if it wasn't for my mom being like blah 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 blah. And if my dad, if he had been like it's like that. It's like thinking that these saboteurs are outside of you and giving your time and attention, your very limited airtime to these external saboteurs, that's you playing the part of your own saboteur, right? And I'm not saying that these people didn't do these things. What I'm saying is that there are many floors in the building of how you look at what is it that they did. Okay, because again, what I desire most is to feel bound. What I desire most is to have my physical sword stolen so that I can get right side up in my real power, which is in opening my heart, which is in remembering that I am the divine incarnate, which is in remembering that the world is not even necessarily real. The only thing that's real for me personally is my perception of this world. So, quite possibly, there's another way to view what it is that I'm looking at. And I also want to acknowledge that it is very real. And so, something to beware of is that, you know, when someone else is sabotaging us, let's say they are like actually sabotaging us. Like the phrase that comes to mind for that for me is crabs in the bucket. Okay, you can Google crabs in the bucket and you can see what I'm talking about firsthand. The image is so powerful. But it's the idea that if you put crabs in a bucket, multiple of them, like let's say a 5 gallon bucket, and there's enough of them where like theoretically they could stack themselves up and like one could like crawl out and like another one could climb up this ladder and like they could build a bridge out of the bucket like down to the ground such that they could like literally pull everyone up and out of this bucket like just because one person is able to kind of like get up and over the ledge of the bucket out into freedom. If one can reach freedom, they could build a process that get them all to freedom. But do you think that that's what the crabs do? No. That's exactly the opposite of what the crabs do. The crabs in the bucket will die because anytime any of them start climbing up towards the top, the other crabs grab a hold of them and pull them down. It's real. It's like you can look it up. You can watch videos of the crabs in the bucket and how they like sabotage each other. And because that one's higher than me, I'm going to pull it down. Because that one's closer to freedom than I am, I'm going to pull that one down. And crabs in the bucket, like I feel an energy in my face, like right behind my nose, like right in this part of my face that feels like disgust. Okay. Because of what I described at the beginning of like the crabs could build a bridge that like gets them all to freedom. And instead of working together, they enforce, like the bottom one enforces its limitation on the one that has a shot at freedom instead of following the lead and like following the example and like aiming higher for yourself, you want to pull other people back down to where you are. And then there's stagnancy and everybody dies in that bucket. Okay. And the opposite is possible. And the thing is, we are the creator of our reality. Okay. So, in the truest sense of the word, there is never an external saboteur. There is only ever the internal saboteur. And again, the reason for that is because the things that people do to us, they stole my swords. They took away my this and that. They did this and that to me. They, like all of these stories about the external saboteur and the person that ruined it for us. That is us. That is us playing our own saboteur in that moment. It's like us being sideways in our power, thinking that that external person ever had any power to affect us whatsoever. And when we look at it from a new perspective, a new lens, we're able to see that truly this illusion of limitation that was created by these other characters in the story, right? By them stealing my physical swords, I found my non-physical swords. Okay, like there's multiple floors in the building with which to look at the same thing. Like if you are inside of a certain building and you walk in off the street and you're in the lobby and there's a river 2 miles that way, like you look out the windows of the lobby and you're like, I don't think there's a river because there's only a building and a building and a building. I don't even know what kind of river they're talking about. What even is a river? Because look at, like, is that building a river? No. See, there's no river. Like, clearly, these people talking about a river, like, they're full of it. And so then somebody comes along and they're like, got a awesome energy. And you're like, wait, what are you doing? You're like, they're like, I'm going to go look at the river. And you're like, what river? There is no river. They're like, oh, there's a river. Watch this. You should come with me. You can come with me if you want. And they take you around the corner and to the elevator and they push the button, easy enough. And they get on the elevator with you and they're like, do you want to push the button? And you're like, I don't know how. And they're like, it's easy. You just push it. It's that one right there. And so you push the button that says 9 and you go up to the ninth floor and the doors open and instantly you're transported into a different world because when you look out these windows, not only is there a river right there that you can see, but there's mountains that are over there that, like, I'd never even heard anybody talk about the mountains. They always talk about the river and, like, oh my God, like, it's actually right there. The river is actually right there. And there's mountains. I had no idea about any of these things, but now I'm on the ninth floor and I can see them. Okay. So somebody stole my swords. It's like that. It's like when we're on the ground floor, when we're in the lobby telling the story of somebody stole my swords, that's us denying that the river exists. And when we go to the ninth floor and we look out and we realize that thank God they stole my swords because now I know it's not about my spear, it's about my spirit. Now I know that my real weapon was never my sword because I did my best performance ever with no sword. And I never would have done that if they hadn't stolen them from me. The only reason I found my way there was because they took the thing that I thought I needed. And thank God they did that because it was such a gift. It opened me up to new levels of my power. It let me see new things that I personally am capable of. And I never would have gotten to experience any of that if it had not been for the saboteur, for the dude that stole the swords. Okay. And there's more to it than this. There always is. Okay. And these two that I just pulled out, and actually there's four. That's really a lot, but the color story here is very pretty. That's really interesting, actually. Because of the color story, I want to flip those. Look at how pretty the colors are first. Color is an illusion. It's not real, but like the pretty, the beauty, the moment of taking the time to be like, oh, that's pretty. That's really satisfying. Because there are cards in this deck that are like the same color. And like you see, like now we've got five different colors. And the progression is nice. It almost feels like it's like warming up as it goes. Um, And I only want to read the light attributes. I want to read this journey through the light attributes coming off of like, now we're on the ninth floor. Okay. And basically, what I just heard from my future self is that this right here, like these four cards, this is a new way to see your saboteurs. Okay. So this is like going from the lobby to the ninth floor and looking at them differently. They're the same. They're not different. They stole the swords, okay? And that's still a constant. What's different is that you're not in the lobby anymore, you're on the ninth floor. And so from the ninth floor, who are they? First, they're your companion. The light attribute of companion is loyalty, tenacity, and unselfishness. And I'm going to read through all four of these and then we'll unpack for a while. They're also, your saboteur is also a Samaritan. It refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. Interesting. They are also your servant. Delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. They are also child eternal, determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit, ability to see things with fresh eyes, which is very much what we're doing right now. But that's who your saboteur really is. Okay, when we're on the ninth floor and we're looking at the truth of who is this person really, they're our companion. They are one of the least selfish people among us, actually. Um, and this is really getting to be a ninth floor conversation because like it reminds me of my parents and the journey that I've taken so far in my life and how who I was as a child and who I still am is very much a homebody. I like the comfort of a nest. Like most humans, like I do good in a comfort zone, ish to whatever extent we can do good in our comfort zone. And essentially, I felt like my parents weren't at the time, I felt like they weren't meeting my needs. Later, I came to the conclusion that they really weren't capable of meeting my needs. And so, like, it wasn't personal that they weren't meeting my needs. It was that they just didn't understand my needs and didn't necessarily have the capacity to fill them then. And because of that, because of those unmet needs, I went out into the world and I took adventures. I moved to places where I knew no one and I started completely over and I found a deeper, more true version of myself that ultimately led me back full circle to the place where I started. And now from the ninth floor, like I see my parents completely differently because I know that if they had let me keep my swords, if they had if they had met every single need I ever had, dude, I probably wouldn't have even moved out of their house, you know? Like it was those unmet needs that even took me on the adventure that I went on. And so it was because of the stolen swords. It was because of the lack, the perception of lack that initiated this journey that brought me to so many beautiful things. And so when I say like, this saboteur is actually your companion and is the epitome of unselfishness, just imagine like my parents, like if they had given me everything, I would have stayed with them, and because they withheld, or like their higher self and like my soul and their soul had this soul contract, like we're not going to give you XYZ, even though XYZ is the oxygen that you breathe. Like we're going to withhold that, which is going to force you away from us, which means we'll lose you. We'll lose like a decade with you, and it'll be worth it because of what it will give you is so much more than what you would get by spending that decade with us. And so we're going to sacrifice our closeness. We're going to sacrifice like the depth of our relationship for the height of you becoming who you were born to be. Okay. And so that is an unselfish companion. The Samaritan of refining your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. Um, I feel like, again, okay, so there's like a trapeze here, and there's like a leap of faith I'm hearing. And the part about going back to like the crabs in the bucket and helping those you would prefer to ignore, um, we've all played the saboteur for another person. We've all had our needs unfulfilled, and we've left other people's needs unfulfilled. Like we've all been on both sides of this journey. And I feel with this one like a soft spot in my heart for those people who help us by giving us the medicine we do not want, by giving us the bitter pill of stealing our swords. And forcing us to come up with something different that actually ends up being like the stroke of genius that like puts us on the map, all because somebody stole our swords. Like it also reminds me that like truly there is no crab in the bucket that can pull you back down, like 100% without question. I have zero doubt in my mind. Like we are each the creator of our own reality, and there is no force externally that can stop us from doing exactly what it is that we want to do. There is only truly the internal saboteur that we ever have to contend with. And so quite possibly these cards can also be about looking at that internal saboteur that is our companion, that is the Samaritan, that is the part of ourselves that needs our help, that we may be really quick to dismiss or judge as not on our side. And again, I'm like, what if the self-sabotage that like held you back, like what if that spared you from somewhere that you were never meant to be? Like, what if that is what actually put you on the tracks of the journey that you were meant to take all along? Your self-sabotage, right? Like, again, what if that inner saboteur is on your side, stealing your swords so that you'll dig deeper and find your real power? It's not about your spirit, it's about your spirit. And the servant, right? Like, delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. And what that, again, what that brings me back to is the doctor who breaks your legs so that they can heal it. Like you broke your leg and it healed all funky, and now you can't walk because like it's deformed or whatever because it wasn't properly set and wasn't allowed to heal correctly. It healed weird, and now like basically your leg doesn't work like a leg. And so to get your leg back, to regain your mobility, to regain access to the walking world, right? Of being someone who has access to get to walk, talk about like something that you could be grateful for every single day, but most people aren't. The walking world, we get access to that because this doctor is willing to break our leg for us. You know, here, let me break your leg for you. And then I will reposition it into the position that it was always meant to be when it got broken initially. And it needs to be set like this. And then I'll wrap it up in the thing that holds it in place. And I'll be with you to check in with you to make sure that it's healing correctly. And it all starts by delightfully and joyfully serving others, which sometimes means delivering a dose of medicine that they are not going to enjoy. Like that re-breaking of the bones so that it can be healed is an awful moment, but it gives you access to the world where you regain the ability to walk. So it's a key in the door, right? It's a necessary part of the process of that healing journey. And once you're, fully healed and recovered and walking and running and, climbing trees and picking fruit and letting the juices drip down your chin, you look back on that moment where the doctor rebroke your leg and you're not calling him a bastard. Maybe you did in the moment when he rebroke your leg, but now you're looking back like, God, thanks, doc. You gave me my life back. I got full body chills. And last, child eternal, determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit, ability to see things with fresh eyes. And, I feel like the child eternal, like, is able to wrap everything in awe and wonder. And that includes your inner saboteur, right? And so, like, my future self is asking me in this moment to, like, basically lighten the fuck up on my bad habits and my, like, need to get more in shape and need to eat better and need to, like, finish what I start and need to, like, get this thing done and blah, blah, blah. Like, any of the things that are the things that we tell ourselves in our head, like, I need to do my invoices. I need to clean my kitchen. I need to get my laundry caught up. I need to call my friend back. I need to, like I've been wanting to write my book for 20 years. I need to write my book. Like we tell ourselves all of these things. And again, like the child eternal can wrap all of that in the awe and wonder that's available when we're willing to go to the ninth floor and do the real work of consistently tuning in to where our real power comes from, like where our real source of life force energy is. Like, what is it actually? Because, again, in the covering of our eyes with the blindfold of darkness, that leads us to the conclusion that we have no swords, that the world is 68 degrees to 76 degrees. That's what it is. We've decided we know that that's what it is. Doing the real work to dig up those kinds of frameworks that are like the Knight of Pentacles that we got earlier, where like the reversed, it was the reversed Wheel of Fortune and the Knight of Pentacles, where like we have these inner frameworks, we have these beliefs in our mind that it's time to turn the page. It's time to excavate these frameworks and realize that, like, we do not experience the world as it is. We experience the world through our brain. So we experience the world how our brain is. And so the framework that's inside of our brain is what's creating the reality. The floor of the building that we're standing on is what's creating our view. And so if we want a different view, then that's available to us. It just means digging up the belief that is keeping you in the lobby and trading it for a perspective that has more awe and wonder. Like thank God, our saboteur stole our swords so that our plan fell apart. Thank God our plan fell apart so that we could actually end up where we were meant to be all along, which is like coming home, right? Like when we're able to trust in ourselves and trust in this bigger source that isn't just our mind's attempt to try to control things, but that is this opening up and listening to something that is beyond the now moment, something that is outside of time. Okay. And I want to maybe possibly land this plane by asking for one of these messages from outside of time. What is the ultimate message that we are ready to hear right now? Right? Like, not the end all be all of like, oh, great, now we understand this, so we're done. You want to get Carly annoyed. Start talking about how do we finish this process of expansion and growth that we're on. We won't. We can't. We can't finish it because it's never done. Because as soon as you get bigger, the challenge gets bigger. And once you get big enough to be bigger than the challenge gets bigger. And that's how growth works. That's how your heart opens. And thank God there's saboteurs at every level. Okay? There's somebody to hold you back. There's a boulder that can hang off your hot air balloon that will hold you down no matter how big your engine gets in your hot air balloon. Like, there'll be a boulder that's bigger than that. And do you want to know why that's such an amazing thing? Because that is truly the appetizer to the main course of expansion of your hot air balloon motor. And so, yeah, what is the message from outside of time that is ready to reach us? The star, wish fulfillment. What do you desire most? And what does your future self desire most? I'm hearing I don't know. I don't know where to start. Like what I'm hearing in my mind is every time I think about what I want, my mind goes blank. And what I want to say about that is that possibly, I want to kind of throw this out there hedged, right? Like with a bouncy ball around it because it may or may not be true. But quite possibly, sometimes when we think we don't know what we want, what's really going on is that we're scared of what it actually is. Or kind of like what I was talking about earlier with like, what I want is to speak on stages, hold microphones, receive rounds of applause. And then I talk myself out of wanting that because that's vanity or that's frivolous or how is that supposed to help the world? Like I turn into my own saboteur telling myself that my desires are stupid. And so is it that I don't know what I want? Or is it that I'm talking myself out of the desire that I do know that I want, that I think I shouldn't want, that I think I should want something different than that? So there's a big difference between truly not knowing what it is that your future self wants and being shown what it is that she wants and being too scared to live into it. So, what is the rest of this message from outside of time that is meant to not take us to where our future self is? Our future self is not out there. Our future self is a deeper version of who we are, who we already are in this moment. So it's more like instead of moving forward towards our future self, we move deeper into our future self. So what is the message from outside of time that can help us move deeper into, of course, that's so perfect. They can help us move deeper into our future self. And we got the Fool. And I feel like that message has already come out as far as what we were talking about with the Knight of Pentacles and like thinking you already know. I heard an affirmation this morning that was, um, you have, I have no idea how today is going to go, And even just if you feel like it, repeat after me. I have no idea how today is going to go. I have no idea how what I want can be brought to me. I am prepared to be surprised by how what I want can come to me. You know, Today could be the day. that what I've wanted for so long finally comes through. That could be today. That could be in 2 seconds, right? Like we are just on the precipice of a whole new life every single second of every single day because of the fluidity of this holographic universe. I'm actually going to put a video in the description that I have been stalked by this video for years, and I finally watched it, and I think there was something very almost like inner saboteur inside of me that was not prepared to watch that video because I was not ready to be healed. Okay. Like I was liking my restriction, thank you very much. And it's working for me because if I stay small, then I also get to stay safe. And if I get to stay invisible, then no one will see me and no one will criticize me. Yes, I want to be seen, but I am not willing to be criticized. So that means I'm stuck being invisible, right? Like, yes, I want to be seen. Okay, then you have to be willing to be criticized. It's like, do you really want to be healed? And so I watched The Holographic Universe in the morning, okay? And then I watched The Matrix in the afternoon. And friends, let me tell you, there is no spoon, okay? Like, there is no spoon. Do not try to bend the spoon. That's impossible. Only try to realize that there is no spoon and that actually it is your mind that bends. And the holographic universe, like, there is no external saboteur. There is no really like there is no internal saboteur. Okay. And this is something that I want to talk just briefly about. And I actually want to get out these cards as well. But I want to talk briefly about like when when we're doing our inner work and we're taking these journeys inside of ourselves and into the future, deeper into ourself, finding our future self, hearing these messages outside of time, etc. Um, integrating all of this, it takes some arranging. Okay. And when it comes to parts work, and like that's why I like these archetype cards because it really helps me like tune in to the different archetypes that are at play inside of myself. Like the whole point of this holographic universe is that truly everything that we can perceive external to us is part of the hologram that we are personally rendering out of our internal frameworks, out of our internal world. We produce this holographic universe. So truly every single individual is living inside of their own hologram. And if there's something about your hologram that you want to be different, then you change inside of you, and then the external hologram reflects that difference. And these are not new concepts. These are things that have clicked inside of me many times before. And yet there was something very like fool energy, like new beginnings. You don't know, you're bumbling around, like discovering penicillin by accident, okay? Discovering Viagra by accident. And you didn't mean to do that. All right. You weren't aiming for any of that. And yet, because of your beginner's mindset, because you knew you didn't know, you took steps in ways that led you right where you needed to be. And that was my point about inner parts work and finding like this version of you that you want to call your inner saboteur. And for a second, I just want you to feel the connotation of that. It is somewhat of an insult. Okay, like to think about this thing is in my way. It's stopping me. It's not on my side. It's holding me back. There's a negative connotation wrapped up in that archetype. And again, like the light attribute is that it helps us see our own fear of empowerment. It helps us see our own attachment to our illness. Okay, like we like it how it is. There's a book that I'm being reminded of in this moment called Existential Kink. You may be interested in checking out. It's about how, like, truly, like every single thing in our life is magnetized to us by mostly our subconscious desires, which means not the desires that we are conscious of, but the desires that we are unconscious of. And every single thing in our life is helping us to fulfill those unconscious desires. Yes, even poverty. Yes, even illness. Yes, even being, broke or out of a job, or your lover cheats on you and leaves with another person. Like every single thing in our reality is helping us to fulfill our unconscious desires. That's the premise of Existential Kink. And again, it's a whole book, it's her whole body of work. It's all she does is talk about Carolyn Lovewell, I think is her name. Um, but when it comes to like surfacing these parts that we think are our enemy, right? Like I'm also reminded of the 12th house, the house of hidden enemies, and how, like, truly, we're our only enemy. Okay, there is no enemy outside of us. It's us. It's just us and our subconscious and the things that we want in our subconscious that our conscious mind has just no understanding, no way to be able to grasp. Why would I ever do that to myself? Okay. And that's the thing about the saboteur. And what I started to say here is like, as we identify the saboteur part and we give it a new job, we start relating to it differently as far as really internalizing the light attribute of our self-sabotage is that it's highlighting our own fears of self-empowerment and the changes that that would bring to our life. Like it's showing us where yes, part of you wants that thing, but there is another part of you that's more scared of having that thing than they are excited of having that thing. And as long as you're more scared of it than excited about it, you will never have it because your unconscious will protect you from it, right? Our saboteur is actually our companion, a Samaritan, a servant, and the child eternal. Our saboteur is the one that is essentially keeping us in lockstep with divine timing. That's the job. That's the job of our saboteur is that it keeps us in alignment with the highest good of the all. Because here's the thing about like feeling held back or feeling stuck or feeling like I should be flying by now and I'm not because this boulder is hanging off my basket. This person is sabotaging me. They're holding me back. My boss won't promote me. My boyfriend won't propose to me. Like whatever it is that we think like somebody else is screwing up the timing of our lives. It's never true. It's never true. It's never the case. Always, it's about getting our heart to open up a little bit wider, to get us to realize it's not about the spear, it's about the spirit, right? It's not about that thing in the tangible. It's not about what you desire. It's about why do you desire that thing? What is the energy? What is the feeling that you think will be unlocked when you have that thing? And how can you feel that way now? Right? Like, what is it? What is the feeling that you think that thing is bringing you? And how can you feel that way now today? Right? So, when we think about the fear of self-empowerment and the changes that it would bring, like, that is our mechanism of divine timing. That's our mechanism of not having the thing before we're meant to have it, right? Like not just for the highest good of the all, but for our highest good, right? Like for our own highest good, we are kept apart from certain things until it's the right time. Because, like I think about baking bread, for example, or anything where, like, when you're creating it, it matters a lot that you build it in the right order. Like, I'm also seeing a house, like, you don't build the roof first. Okay, like you're building a roof on the ground because there is no house yet. There is no foundation. We haven't leveled the soil. We haven't dug the basement, but we're over here like building the roof on the ground. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Okay, you're out of order. Someone is objecting because you're out of order. Your saboteur is holding you in a place where like it's not letting you run off and build the roof because truly that's not what comes first. Okay? Like first you need to dig the basement and you need to install the plumbing and you need to like make sure that the electric line is hooked up and like how are we going to design the layout of the blueprint of the house so that it like whatever. Like there's so many more things that come before building the roof. So our saboteur, our mechanism of divine timing, actually also ends up being a lot about what generates our luck and how like we can actually experience a timing so good, we can experience an alignment so good that we start to call ourselves lucky. But really, all it is like you're ready at the time that the thing is ready for you, right? Like feeling unlucky is when you're giving everything you've got to building the roof and you have no house yet. Okay. And like building the roof is just not working. And then you start to call yourself unlucky. But like truly, you are working on the wrong part of the process, right? Like if you are doing the process of baking the bread and you mix all the ingredients together and throw it in the oven, you're going to be very disappointed at what comes out of the oven because you skipped a part of the process where like now you just have to let the thing rest so the dough can rise. And then once the dough has risen, then you bake it, and then what you're going to get out of the oven is soft and fluffy and the best bread you've ever tasted. There's a semi driving by that has sliced bread on it right now. The best bread you've ever tasted can come out of the oven if you don't skip the steps. But if you're rushing the process, you start to call yourself unlucky. And really, it's not about being unlucky, it's being out of step with the real process, right? It's about thinking that you're doing something for yourself, thinking that you're being disciplined and like working so hard, but you're building a roof on the ground, you know? And so your future self has a really keen understanding of this and is very much in the flow of the timing of not just what I desire most, but truly what is it time for right now? What part of the process am I on right now? Because it may not be time to build the roof, right? Like, and so my inner saboteur is like making that feel like an uphill battle to me, but probably I'm just working on something too soon. I'm trying to bake the bread before I let it rise. Like I'm trying to build the roof before I've built the house underneath it. And that's not necessarily like even a discipline problem or an abundance problem. Like there is ample, like I'm getting like already in your current right now self. Like it's not that you can't work hard. It's not that there's not opportunities flowing through you. It's sometimes again like that Knight of Pentacles that thinks it has like the order of operations of like to do this well, you know, the textbooks say that you should have 12 months of this and 18 months of this. And it's like the textbooks, like throw them away because truly, like your dance with the universe has never happened before. And so there is something new that is ready and willing to come online if we will forget everything that we think we know about how to do it. Like if we will truly surrender to the how and go only based on our intuition, go only based on what we can hear in the stillness inside of ourselves, go only based on what is it that our heart cares most about, right? Like this entire conversation with our future self about what do we desire most. Every single time it comes back to opening your heart a little bit wider, opening your heart a little bit wider, opening your heart a little bit wider, and the contractions in between. The contraction that is the appetizer to the expansion that's on the other side of that. The truth sinking in deeper and deeper and deeper that it isn't about your spear, it's about your spirit, right? It's not about the tangible 3D version. It's about the divine life force energy that is flowing through from the infinite non-physical that is animating you, that is animating the you that has never been in this world ever before. Okay. And everything that is possible when you will approach life from that perspective of listening to the deep stillness of your own heart, forgetting everything that you were taught about the right way to do things and like what makes a person successful. Because again, those frameworks and those things that you think you know, that is exactly what is standing in your way. That is a very clear message from future self. And that truly it is within the endurance to trust yourself, to trust what it is that you're hearing in that deep stillness, and being able to find the sweetness again, I'm drawn back to the success that you get by doing it the right way and the way that you were taught to do it, and then winning the awards that are possible along this path, and then feeling the hollow success of that. Like, what is truly possible, the sweetness that is truly possible when you will surrender to the intuitive guidance that only you can hear, right? The endurance of self-trust, meaning that there are external people who don't get it, but truly you're the author. You're the one that knows the story. You're the one that knows how the antagonist stole your swords and how that lets you find your real weapon. Okay. And then the final fight scene, the person shows up with their swords and all of your swords, thinking they already won, and you whip them because you found a weapon that's like 20 times more powerful than a sword. So it doesn't matter how many swords they don't have what you have, right? They stole your sword thinking that they could stop you, and instead they made you more powerful. Freaking love this so much. Oh, own the room. It's not about your spear. It's about your spirit. Okay. It's about who you are when you walk in the room. And your future self owns the room. Your future self, which is to say, your future self knows their power. Okay, I just heard soft power. I just heard that, there's a grace and a sweetness and a slowness to your future self that is so much more powerful than anything that you can fathom from where you are right now today. And this time of communing with our future selves has planted seeds and nurtured seeds that our future self, like the very last message that is coming through here, is that you do not have to have it all figured out. I do not have it all figured out. I do have an express elevator to take me to the ninth floor. That's what your future self has, is this practiced ability of recognizing immediately when I'm looking out the windows of the lobby, and recognizing immediately that this is not the only view that's available. And that if I go around the corner and I get in the elevator and I poke the button and I go up to the ninth floor, all of a sudden I have a completely different viewpoint that's available to me. And, what I desire most is to be back in the lobby. What I desire most is the illusion of limitation, because, and again, this is your future self speaking, like, because I understand that that is the appetizer. If you are being served the contraction, the main course of the expansion is already being cooked in the kitchen. It's just a matter of time before that gets served to you. And so I would love to hear in the comments anything and everything that would feel good to you to share. Anything that resonates as far as anything I shared in this message, but more so, like I said, like, what is your future self able to slip through the cracks of your preconceived notions, right? That Knight of Pentacles, those inner frameworks of what we think we know that we're all working to dissolve and eliminate out of our mental real estate, so that there is open space so that we can hear a different version of the story from our future self, where they don't feel like they got their swords stolen. They feel like they got their greatest power handed to them by somebody else who literally thought they were gonna like pull you back and like pull you back off what you wanted, and like, oh, I got them now. I'm gonna steal their swords, and like they'll be powerless without their swords. And then you actually like slip out of their grasp and like take a flight to become the most powerful thing either one of you have ever seen. And on a soul level, truly, there was a soul contract that said so and so would show up and steal your swords. Okay, because without that, you would have kept using your swords. You would have kept believing that the spear is where your power comes from instead of having to go to your spirit. It's not about your spear, it's about your spirit. I love that. I love that so much. And I love you guys so much. And I loved this time so much. And truly, there is plenty of time to practice these new ways of thinking, to practice these new ways of being, to practice going to the ninth floor. Like there's just plenty of time. There's so much stillness and sweetness available from that future self vantage point where she already got it all done. She already figured out not just how to do it, but the most empowering way to do it, like both for herself and for the highest good of the all. She's embraced her heart-filling success. She has owned the room. She authored her story. She didn't settle for like the first act being the end of the play. She wrote more acts that like she took the real journey and she found her true power. And that's you. That's the journey that's evolving. Like, I mean, we don't even know what this day is meant to hold. Like, this day is ready to surprise you if you're ready to be surprised. So, again, I would love for you to come back in the comments and tell me, like, what surprise, like, popped off as soon as you, like, finish listening to this message or whatever it is. Either way, no matter what, no matter where you are, no matter how this message has found you, I am sending you so much love. I am so grateful for the taps on my shoulder this morning from my own future self that guided me in this day, that like the most fun, the most joy that I could have is to sit right here and get to do this. And like I already am tuning into my future self this evening, right? Like the 12 hours from now version of me who's laying her head down on the pillow and falling asleep another day over. And she's so grateful that she got to hang out with you guys. And so that's all I got for now. Take such good care, and I will see you again soon. Okay. Okay. Bye bye.